in touch with them a little bit. We got them kind of off center from where they were at with nothing happening. We kind of remind them that their liquor license was going to be in jeopardy. We also have a 3-year contract grant that we gave to them, and so we just kind of reminded them with all of that. They've gone out again and did a market study. They are struggling trying to get a commercial piece into the bottom of the building. They were working with, I would have loved it, Pier 500 out of Hudson. They thought that they were going to be coming and doing some type of a commercial restaurant down there, but they've kind of backed out at this time. So what they're looking at is they've come to the city to look a little bit more at doing more housing there. They would like to have still a piece for commercial, probably a smaller type of a pub. So they went out and did a market study to take a look at that. Their market study, I did get to see it, looks favorable for housing. And so we're going to start working with them on that. It would probably take either rezoning or they would have to ask for a variance for the commercial district that they're in. So they're a little bit off center, which would be great to keep them moving in the right direction is kind of what we're looking at there. So the assessment that we did for the police department, we are looking for a new chief of police. We actually have the interview set for the 21st of April. We have 6 candidates that we will be interviewing, 2 internal and 4 external candidates. Part of this was, sometimes you just get a gut feeling that you got to take a look at the whole picture of everything that's going on. And so I kind of had talked to the police commission and the mayor and said, let's kind of just do an assessment of the police department just to kind of see where we're at. Are we at the right amount of officers? Do we have our policies and procedures in place? Kind of what is everything that's happening up there? So I was lucky to find a gentleman who has done this for a number of other communities. And so he came in and he sat down with the mayor, myself, and the head of the police commission, Bill Pryor. We talked a little bit about what we were kind of hoping for to get out of the assessment. And I think we got some very valuable information that we'll be able to share with the new chief as the new chief is coming in. And it's also valuable for the officers that were there. They did do an interview with each of the police commissioners and each of the police officers. They also then went externally to the sheriff's department and the DA's office and kind of met with all of them too to see what kind of working relationship they had. They did review the assessment just at our last council meeting, and so the mayor and I and Bill Pryor are going to actually meet to discuss. Maybe there'll be some different changes as to accountability. I think was one of the big issues that got brought forward was who is the chief of police accountable to and the department and all of that. So those were some of the things that we got out of the assessment. Again, there's a number of policies and procedures that need to be reviewed and looked at, and it's forever changing. That's the tough part. We're looking at body cameras, and as we're trying to write a policy for body cameras, we keep getting emails from the legislatures. They're changing policies down there. So you got to incorporate all of that information into our policies and procedures. So any other questions on kind of those things? Otherwise I can okay. All right, Janet.
Did the city council approve the
K-9?
K-9.
The city council asked for more information on the K-9. I think the upfront presentation was really good for the need for the K-9 unit. The thing that is the council is really looking at is this is ongoing. And so we need to know is what is it going to cost us on an ongoing basis? What if we do mutual aid with another community that needs it? Who's going to pay for that mutual aid? Those are the kinds of questions that we still need to answer. What happened? Here's my biggest concern was what happens if something happens to the dog? Who makes the decision if the dog has to be put down? I mean, these are questions that I want addressed up front. I don't want to have all of a sudden, here we are at the last minute trying to make a decision and we're unsure of who's going to make that decision. So we'll be working with Jesse Neely has kind of taken the lead on that. And so we'll work with Jesse on trying to provide more information to the council. So
he spoke at the gathering,
Mhm.
and I was impressed with the amount of data he
Yep.
accumulated.
Right.
And the overall picture of where we are now with drugs coming through. In
Very
Prescott
scary.
Because of the 3 highways
Mm-hmm.
that are here, and the fact that they're patrolling 94 so vigorously, they're coming this way.
Correct. Yep.
So that was rather alarming.
Yeah. And if you saw the statistics then on the drugs that are coming through Prescott and the drug arrests that we have. And again, every time an officer can be put at risk, anytime they have to do a search, just like he said, if you get into the wrong type of drug, right away you could have some reaction, and we need to be very thoughtful of what we're going to do and how we're going to move forward. So
not even really drug related, just like
right.
Outrunning you as an officer or a lost child.
Yeah.
Lost adult.
Yeah. Yep. And we've kind of had all of that, so definitely something. So Sean, you had.
Yeah, this wasn't brought up at the council meeting, but
Yeah.
The police survey results.
Yes.
Could you talk about those?
The survey results from the residents?
Yeah,
And then businesses? Yeah. Well, it was one of these last minute pieces as they were doing the assessment. They didn't feel that they had got enough information from the residents or the business. And we did have kind of a timeline on when we're going to hire a chief of police. So it only got really put out for a couple of weeks. We didn't have a whole lot of response back from either side, either the businesses or from the individual residents. So, it might be something we take a look at again later ourselves to try to see what the needs and wants are more in the police department, what your thoughts are, that kind of stuff. But I don't know there was a whole lot of information that they were able to gather out of those few surveys. So, but I'll just do a couple other things where we're quickly looking at, and you can ask me questions. Feel free to ask as we go along. So we have a very large street project this year. It's Albert Street and College Street. So we're working, and everybody kind of knows where the fire was on Friday. That's the end point. We're coming up Albert Street, going up past the Malone Elementary, down College, all the way to Pine Street. As part of that project, we discovered a few of our utilities are on some other personal people's property. So we're going to have to acquire a few pieces of land across there. We're working with those residents right now. At the school, we're going to hopefully help to enhance some of that parking and drop-off back there behind the Malone Elementary. So we've got some plans that we've been working with the school on that. It is a large project. It's almost a $1.7 million project. It's about, I think, what did they say, 16 blocks, which is a very large project for us, for the city of Prescott. We don't usually take on those bigger projects, but we felt this was a street that needed to be done. We're also writing a grant for it, so we're still waiting to see if we get the grant, which would be really great because they pay about 50%, or about $600,000 would come back from a grant. So, excuse me. There would be sidewalks. Oh, yes.
This is the College Street or the continue on the other side?
Continue on the other side all the way down to Pine Street. Yeah, so yeah, we're gonna get going on that pretty soon. The DNR, again, mandates all over the place. So we have a number of hydrants or water loops that don't actually loop. They come to a dead end at like a hydrant or a dead end at a service. So we have to start looping those. So we're looking at a number of projects this year. We were looking at a Cass and Canton water loop over there, where we would actually go, where SOS is at, Hadler Storage, and then Stagecoach. And we kind of would run through their properties and come out and loop Casson Street with Canton Street. We just have a little bit of an issue with one of the property owners over there right now. So we're kind of going to put that one on hold, but it will be a project that will get completed. We have Orrin and Lynn. So what we're looking at is it would be Canton Street from First National, coming along Orrin Road. We're going to connect from Canton Street over to Lynn Street, the water through that property. And then as part of this that came up, we have an assisted living that's also looking at going into next to the Dollar General. They have some major stormwater issues, so the city is working with them on the stormwater issues. We were out there the other day and all the snow, and those guys were measuring how far things had to travel. Okay, this gets way over my head, but how far things had to travel, what was the slope on the water, where are all of the outlets and everything along that line. So we've come up with a proposal that we'll have to run past our Public Works Committee, but the assisted living is going to come in. We're doing a special planning commission meeting on Monday night, and they're going to present their project in a little bit of a way. Yes?
Is that the same company who put one up in Ellsworth?
No, this is a different company. This company is out of the Twin Cities. Unbelievable. They know exactly what they're doing. They're asking the right questions. They're not asking for a whole lot of assistance financially, so that's been really great. They're looking at a 40-unit assisted living, and then one section of it would be memory care. Mm-hmm.
But no, it's senior living.
Yeah, they wanted to do some senior living in the back. They wanted to do like row houses in the back there. But with all of the stormwater, we had to have stormwater ponds back there. So that kind of went away. But they're very interested in senior housing. And so, we're going to continue to work with them on some of that.
So what happened with Braidale?
We haven't heard from them since we talked to them originally. So I don't know what's happening. And that's kind of happened to us a couple of other times. We start to talk with them.
There's been influx.
Right.
It was supposed to be assisted living back in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just sitting there.
Right. And it drops away and then it comes back. And so we'll see what happens. Maybe they'll make a decision to go back into something different. Yeah, we'll have to see. Yep, they do have approval to demolish. Right. They just haven't moved anything forward with
That
it. So.
building's pretty old with probably asbestos and other stuff, right?
Right. In the infrastructure, there'd have to be major remodeling. They did bring in somebody to go through the entire building, and the structure might be sound, but there still would be a number of things. There's been a lot of vandalism in that building since the time that they've acquired. So that would be it. Sure.
Anything with the property behind Joy, south of Joy?
Joy
That
Lutheran.
was supposed to be Habitat at one time.
Right. So Habitat has had to take a little bit of a break with what they were doing, like that Eco Village. That's what we were looking at, Eco Village that they had in River Falls. They've taken a little bit of a break from what they're doing there. They're not doing a whole lot, a big subdivision. I have been working, it's Dave Henniker and the Harrises that actually own the property. So I've been talking to Dave Henniker. We're trying to find someone who can come in and do affordable housing. There's not a lot. What they want is they want everything prepared. So they want the land already, they want the roads in, they want the infrastructure in, then we'll build you the houses. So, and we're not there with that property yet, so. Yep.
What is the Vista Croix liquor
The Vista Croix, now we haven't ever really, the last few years, we haven't issued it. The council has actually just held the license. So I believe that 3-year grant that we had with them is it's October or November of 2018. So I think they'll hold it is coming up. So that kind of was one of those things.
They have to pay back what you gave
Correct.
them if they don't build something by then?
Yes. Yep.
That's
Yep.
a pretty big.
$25,000 was what we gave them to help demolish. So
Is that a line in the sand? They're out of here if they don't have something.
I'm never going to say it's a line in the sand dealing with boards and committees. There could easily be, if we see something that's moving, they started some of the progress or something along that lines, that they would work with them. That's kind of where I would say. But there is an actual contract that was signed by them and filed against the property at the courthouse. And it spells all of it out. But again, like you said,
October is
you're right.
contract.
It is. It's coming fast, too.
I realize that you're in a pickle, everybody's in a pickle with this property. However, we have someone out writing tickets if your weeds are too tall, but that thing is a
Mess.
Well,
eyesight thing.
and I get how that is. So here's part of the problem that we have with it. In order for them to build back into the footprint that they currently have, they had to leave that foundation that was underneath there. They had to leave that for the DNR and the city to know where that foundation actually went. I've called them numerous times about their weeds and having the guy park with the truck out front and all of that sort of stuff.
They're just not being good neighbors.
Right, and I think they're getting it. They've kind of, like I said, they're getting it because what happened is we've been dealing with 2 other people, and we actually finally said enough with getting, just the talk. We actually went to the man who is the developer himself, who has the money. And so I think once we really started to talk to him, I think that's kind of when he came to a realization that, things aren't happening the way that I thought they were happening. He's getting one story, and all of a sudden we're telling him, no, this is not the way that it's happening. So, and that's kind of a move that the mayor and I had talked about for a little bit. You're told who to deal with, and you try to deal with them, but there is a point when you have to say enough is enough, and you have to actually go to the...
We're just right on ticket.
Yeah, exactly. So, but...
Anybody else?
I heard from Leroy Peterson on Clifton, and Lenzner had tried to build a subdivision on Clifton, and that never got built. Now he said, this is land that he owns.
Mm-hmm.
He knows he can't get that liquor license himself. So.
Yeah. So that's why we're not dealing with him anymore.
Well, you're dealing with the other fellow?
We're dealing with actually the man who is the actual person who owns the property. So what he did was he went out and it's Bjarne Anderson. So Bob Campbell was the gentleman who was doing the commercial part of it. And Bruce Lenzen was the person who was doing the residential part of it. But the third person who actually owns the property is Bjarne Anderson. And so these guys keep coming back and saying, oh yeah, we've got this on the line, or we've got that on the line, or we made this step, or we made that step. So there's
I haven't even heard that name.
Yeah, so there's a point that we had to actually go back to them and kind of say, here's what the issue is. And he's kind of like, oh, all right, so now I see what's kind of happening. That's when they went out to the new market study and have kind of brought this all back to us. So down at the Public Works area down there, you're going to see a new public works cold storage building going in down there. So that should start up here, we think, in May. We just need a little bit more room. We're kind of falling over each other with some of the property. I think we actually are in the school, back into the old garage where we used to be, back there, renting from them for some of our equipment that we don't use during the winter time. So some of the summer stuff there. We're working on the Lake Street Assessor's Plat, and that has got turned into the state now. They had a 30-day review time on it. I believe that comes due in, let me just quick check my notices. We sent it in on March 14th, so they have till the 16th, Monday, to get back to us if there's any changes or anything that's needed. Then we have to run 3 notices in the paper to allow any of the residents to come in and take a look at it. It's a public review for 30 days. And then after that time, what happens is then the plat becomes the plat, gets recorded at the courthouse, and then they go out and put in the permanent property stakes, and that will be the plat. Each one will have a new legal description. It'll be like lot 1 of Lake Street Assessor's Plat or something like that. So, and do I think it's going to be a 2019 street project? I don't know that. It's going to take, they told us, a year to actually design the street down there, just about a year. So I think we're probably going to be looking at maybe design for 2019 as a 2020 project for Lake Street.
What did that turn out now? Is your property on your property?
We only really wound up, there were a couple of disputes where people were a couple of feet over on somebody else's property, and they agreed to it, and they decided where to set the line. There was only actually 1 or 2 parcels, that had a dispute over one property line. And I felt really, really bad because they both went out and got new surveyors. They both went out, gotten attorneys, and it came down, the value of the land itself wound up being about $500. So they spent a lot of money to settle on $500, but they did finally settle on an agreement. One paid the other one, and now they've got their new lines already.
So it wasn't as far off as
No, nope, no. Well, some of some of the properties are sitting in the street right away, things like that. But, you know, there's not anything you can really do about that. It's kind of been grandfathered. The road really wasn't traveled as was platted. How many?
Did that get resolved?
Did it get resolved? We were able to plat the ones that sit in the street right of way. But are we going down and tell people your house sits in the street right away and so you have to remove it, or your garage or anything? No, we're going to do that. We're going to let it go. When the time comes to possibly do rebuild, that would be the time we'd be talking to them about, you know, you've got to move it or something along that line. So. But yeah, it really wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be. But it's nice to have it done. So, let's see, we have a lot of things going on. We're actually going to try to work to put together a riverfront plan or the whole downtown plan. The city, as you know, purchased those 3 houses kind of behind Freedom gas station there. We had originally thought we were going to do parking with that. We have another group actually who has approached me. They've actually, this is how things happen, they've actually been buying up the property on the other side of Dakota Street. And they have been purchasing all of those properties. And so they have approached us now, and so they really want to work with us as to try to figure out what a whole downtown plan could be. So is it that maybe they want to do like shops or something along the bottom with condos up on top, and the property that we purchased, because it's right behind, you know, the main street, and we do parking over there, or, you know, what is the whole thing? So
Are they local people that have interested in
they are local people. So, so we're kind of putting that together as to what we can take a look at. The council really has some major decisions to make, you know, because the money can only go so far. And the way that our taxes are, you can only go up the net new construction. And so last year it was $15,000 is all that the city could go up on our budget. So now how do you figure that out when you want to give raises and your health insurance went up and you still want to do projects? We have to look at all of that. And where are we going to go with economic development? We have 2 parcels of land. We get inquiries all the time about the land in the business park. We just have to find the right projects to go in there. So do we buy land to the east, or, you know, what do we do? And then, of course, we were approached by the fire department for the need of 2 new trucks at the cost of $1.5 million. If you're doing a $1.6 million street project this year, and Lake Street is projected at about $1.75 million, how do you put it all together? So that's one of the things we need to take a look at. So I think that's a lot of stuff that we've got going on.
Rumor has it UNFI moving to the state?
We haven't actually heard from them yet. Our hope is that they will expand. UNFI expanding?
To expand their facility.
Yes. You know, because actually they distribute a lot to Whole Foods, and Amazon picked up Whole Foods. And so that's where our hope would be, that they would get some expansion there. So we'll see what happens. They have the extra land to the east there that we sold to them as part of that expansion. So.
And there still is some acreage out there?
We have about 8 acres left in our business park. Right. And it's unlevel. It's about a 4-foot drop from east to west. So the one project we're looking at there, it's amazing how things come together. We were just talking about that at the table. So here we have the project that we're looking at right now. One of them, well, it's the hemp guys. So they use the oils, and the other guy that's looking at it, he uses the stocks. And guess what? They wholesale to UNFI is what they do. So kind of how they all go together. So then they were talking to Diversify to see if Diversify could bottle for them, you know. So it's kind of like how everything comes together. Kind of interesting how that comes together. So.
Are you willing to, can you share a little bit? We haven't been able to.
Yeah.
Fire all for you. I know
we're kind of just sitting right now, Rick, with what we're doing. Yeah, I mean, they approached us. I know that the Planning Commission never really got to council for a discussion at council, because we found a 1940 opinion that says that it can never be used for anything other, this would be for the public square, anything other than a public square or a park. And then there's state statute that goes along with it that says once it's been used as such, we wouldn't be able to do it. So we kind of have just been on hold, waiting to see if they come back. They haven't come back to us since that time. I, shared that with Dallas.
The school board has it on their docket for next
Okay.
Wednesday.
All right.
I don't think everybody knows what you guys are talking about.
Oh,
Well, neither do we.
a little
There's
bit.
never been an eligibility for the entities to come forward. But I have a meeting later today, but there was a proposal to take the park that's right by our middle school,
Right.
the square park, and maybe trade it with our fire hall field.
Yeah.
But there's statutes and things like that that would disallow
Correct.
that kind of transfer. So there's a group that would like to now come back to the school board and maybe come up with some plans. I know that there had been lights on that field historically.
Yes.
The lights no longer are there. Are there any city ordinances that you're aware of that would preclude lights, or is that something that would have to be approved?
It might be something that they might need a conditional use for. But again, the way that the lights are now with the LEDs, they can direct them so much to the field and not have the reflection back from how the other ones were. I remember the days when they were there, and I remember when they got cut down too. So
Alcohol use, is there a conditional, is there a difference between beer and wine versus a hard liquor license?
Right. Okay. So the wine would probably not be a license that they'd be able to get, because in order to have wine, you have to have other kinds of sales that are greater than what your alcohol sales are. Beer, there is no restriction on the beer, so they would be able to get a Class B beer. That's why we have so many. Yes. Yeah.
It just don't even make sense.
Right.
And when just out of curiosity, because I know that there was some pushback on Horner Farms. Parking and use. Are those things that if a development down there were to expand, that the city would have to review?
We would definitely want to review it. Our hopes would be that the group that wants to do this would definitely get out and talk to the neighbors. I have heard from only one neighbor who would kind of be an objection to it, because their thoughts would be, well, the people that ride motorcycles would be up there because the beer would probably be cheaper at the baseball field. So they would be up there rather than downtown. But I mean, well, that's true. So my hope would be that they would have some good discussions and, be able to show the plans, explain the parking issues. They're dealing kind of with the parking issues, I think, right now whenever there is a ball game, and we haven't had any complaints at all with that. So,
Jane, we got about 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay.
If you want to.
Sure.
Quick question.
Uh-huh.
When you said motorcycle, someone asked me if there's noise ordinance in Prescott.
There is a noise ordinance. We try to enforce it to the best ability that we can do. But on the 21st, when all of these motorcycles will come in, April, this is a flood run, yep. When there's 3,000 motorcycles that will come in at one time, how do you enforce it? I know any of the guys they just kind of rev up the motorcycles. Our officers have ticketed them, approached them going, what are you doing? You're being stupid.
And the parking too is.
Right, the parking is.
Not just on flood run.
Right, it is. And again, we'll work with them to try to fill up that parking lot a little bit more, that they have themselves with the no name. But I did see the ad, and I didn't see no name listed this year on the ad. So I don't know. Maybe something was a little bit different. So, but again, any questions, feel free to give me a call. Council meetings, committee meetings, everything's always open to the public. Oh, Larry has a question.
Has there been progress on the bus proposal?
The bus proposal, I'm actually meeting with him tomorrow. So one of the things that they were looking at is they're changing their proposal a little bit to go to the Twin Cities. So they would actually pick up people at the park and ride. So I've been in contact with the state of Wisconsin as to kind of putting up some type of a shelter over there where people could, wait for the bus or something along that line. And they're willing to look at a proposal over at the park and ride. The DOT is. So we'll see. they keep moving, so.
When is that house on Dakota to be torn down?
The fire department wants to do a little bit
Oh, that's right.
training in it, so as soon as they get their training done, then we'll demo it. I don't want to get it so that it's people are breaking into it and all of that. If we see that happening right away, we'll get that demo done as fast as we can. Hey, you want to talk about quick the bike thing we talked about last night? You can share that.
It was a nice collaboration of actually the chamber, the Prescott Foundation, the city, the Prescott Days Committee, and I think we threw the Kiwanis name around there a little bit too. But we're putting in a bicycle repair station outside the chamber office. With hopes, well, we do have a lot of bike traffic just on the Wisconsin side. But however, with the new trail coming into Minnesota, there isn't a projected bicycle repairs center at that location, so we would be able to get a sign up over there, getting people to come to Prescott. It has tools on it. It has you can put your bike up in there and fix it.
Air pumps.
Air pump.
Water.
Yeah, water and little water station for everybody, and then like a runnel on the stair side where the old steamboat is. So if you have your bike and you're coming up or down the stairs, you just put your bike in it. It's something they use in Europe, but you put your bike in there and walk up the stairs. So anyway, it was probably the fastest thing I've ever worked on with the city. We made
Well, it's not in yet.
seriously the fast. I think we did it in 2 or 3 meetings.
We did.
And everybody worked together, and everybody pooled their funds, and it just was going to happen. There was no negativity at all. It was a slick deal. So happy to have that done. She ordered stuff.
I ordered stuff today. The biggest part is the fountain can't get here till May 24th. So it'll be after that. So
Stages,
yeah.
So it's a good thing.
Yeah.
How about a satellite for down there?
A satellite for down there? I'll write that down. Franz. A bathroom.
Porta potty.
Well, we really would like them to go into the businesses. Is what we would.
Well, I mean, the information,
Yeah.
information centers there, but they're not always open. Right?
Yep.
So in the evenings
Right.
or-
Yep, definitely.
Anything else for Jayne? Thanks, Jayne.
Well, I appreciate you.